heavens move by his direction. Obey him in peace. Day and night accomplish the course assigned to them without hindrance one to another. The sun and the moon and the dancing stars, according to his appointment, circle in harmony within the bounds assigned to them. Welcome, friends. I'm your host, Zen Garcia. This is Secrets Revealed on Truth Frequency Radio, and I'm honored to have as guest with me this evening the host of the International Flat Earth Conferences, Robbie Davidson. Robbie, are you there, brother?
I'm here. Thank you so much, Zen, for having me on.
It's our great pleasure, and I appreciate your willingness. I know that you got to be especially crazy busy getting everything set up, and so can you kind of give everybody update on your program, your radio broadcast, websites, and what's coming up with the conference?
Sure, yeah. I run the YouTube channel Celebrate Truth. That's on YouTube. I have a channel there. I do run a 24/7 stream as well as over 500 videos. I have 130,000 subscribers, and I think we're close to 20 million views at Celebrate Truth,
Awesome.
Which is really extraordinary. Yeah, all for his glory, for sure. You can go to celebratetruth.org if you're wanting to check out any of my documentaries. They are for free on YouTube as well, but if you're wanting the DVD digital download, you can find them there, as well as I put out my first book last year, Scientism Exposed, Hiding the True Creator of Creation. And as far as the conferences go, you can find the information at flatearthconference.com or fe2019.com.
Sweet. Oh, and don't forget.
Oh, the radio show. Absolutely. Yeah. And obviously on Revolution Radio, host a show every Saturday with myself and Pastor Nate Wolf. It's been an extraordinary run. We're almost at the full year mark now. I can't believe that, Zen. It's when we did the first show there with you, and it was such great honor to be recommended by you to kind of take over that show, and it's been real fun. We've had a lot of amazing guests on. We're looking at expanding it into 2020 as far as opening it up for call-ins and other different things that
Awesome.
Just will add a lot of value to it. But yeah, it's been an amazing time. I think that we've interviewed over 35 different people throughout the year, so it's been fantastic. We've had you on. Actually, we just had you on probably 4 weeks ago. I forget when it was, and that was really good. We got into some really good discussions, and hopefully we can carry those on into the new year as well. We're going to plan to have some panel shows, which will be great to have you on to kind of talk about different topics. So,
oh yeah, that'll be great. And I definitely believe that you needed a voice like that to where you could do weekly programs, invite people, because you're on the forefront of this whole movement. You've been doing a lot of incredible work, your documentaries, now writing a book, and doing the broadcast with Nate. You are very knowledgeable on what everybody else is involved in with regard to this particular topic and issue as well. And so I wanted to ask you anything about any news or anything of interest that you've seen occurring over the past couple of weeks or months, or anything of interest like that you'd like to bring up or share. I know we just had the supposed 50th anniversary of the moon landings and all that. So
yeah, I mean, there's been a huge, I would say, a massive expansion with Flat Earth here in the tail end of 2019. Definitely see things continuing to get greater and greater for sure. I mean, I'm sure you probably caught the show with David Weiss on InfoWars, in the fact when he had Eddie Bravo. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that show, but David Weiss went on with Alex Jones, Eddie Bravo, and I think Sam Tripoli.
Oh, that was amazing. No,
that was incredible. Yeah, that was really incredible. Great. And while Alex was, kind of joking around and not taking it serious, Eddie Bravo was there to kind of keep Alex in check and saying, "Hey, let David talk. Let David talk." And David was able to get a lot of great points out. It was an incredible show. But since then, I believe Greg Reese from InfoWars, he just put out his first video on InfoWars on Antarctica. Have you seen that yet, Zen? It's
No,
called,
I have not. That
oh, I'm going to have to send it to you. It is phenomenal. I have it mirrored on my channel. If you
cool.
go to Celebrate Truth, you definitely need to see it. It's called, I have it titled Alex Jones Now Endorsing Flat Earth Investigation,
Hmm.
InfoWars Antarctica Special. Well, he did a 10-minute piece. And I'll tell you, it was one of the most incredible 10 minutes I've ever seen someone documenting just flat Earth, Antarctica specifically. And it seems that Alex is at the point now where he's allowing his staff to seriously. He's not going to say no to it. He's to say, look, everyone needs to look into things. Where Alex is at, I think that he's just starting on the rabbit hole. I've got good
Uh,
credibility, the fact that he is actually starting to look into some things. He's been talking with Eddie Bravo and others, and he's just starting, so he's still very skeptical.
yeah.
But he's allowing his staff to run pieces. And I'll tell you, the latest piece that came out on Antarctica, strongly advise you see it. It's mirrored on my channel, Celebrate Truth. Check it out. But I'll tell you, in 10 minutes and 46 seconds, I'll tell you, it was one of the greatest pieces I saw put together. There was stuff that a lot of flat earthers, researchers hadn't even seen yet. Some quotes they found, and it was extraordinary. So it's interesting.
Wow.
That's exciting. And then also there's been a lot of different platforms that they've been having certain guests on, and they've been kind of taking this issue serious. There's actually a lot of people behind the scenes that are actually flat earthers. They're just slowly, gradually introducing their audiences to the
Hmm.
topic, and that's kind of their plan, which I think strategically that's a smart thing to do.
Yes,
Sometimes when you just
absolutely.
jump out and you say it like we kind of did, in 2015, 2016, sometimes that's a little, out there. I mean, people had
Hmm.
to do it, but now, people that have big platforms, 3, 4, 500,000 subscribers, it's probably wise to just start, hey, I'm just here, I'm asking questions and have flat earthers on. So I'm seeing a lot of that happen. It's very, very, incredible to see just even just the last 4.5 years, what has transpired. And then, moving into the conferences, culminating all of this together, and just the excitement and the media and just all the things that are planned for the conference. It's really exciting. I mean, it's an amazing thing to be able to put on the first Flat Earth conference ever, in Raleigh, North Carolina, in 2017. But since then, even in 2019, the explosion of conferences that are happening now under Flat Earth. I mean,
Right.
they're literally popping up in every country of the world right now. I would say 2020, it's going to be to the point where you're going to have to actually pick and choose, because you would not be able to go to all of them.
All of them, right?
There's that many of them. And again, like Chile, Brazil, I mean, there's just Australia, I mean, New Zealand. I was at the New Zealand Expo, and I mean, that was fantastic. But it just seems like every country now are getting serious to the point where they're, holding conventions, conferences, and the world's watching, and they're saying, wait a minute, this isn't just some crazy thing, right?
Right.
People of all walks of life, all different, backgrounds, are all moving in one kind of concerted effort together. And what's going on? So I think there's going to be a transition, even with the media, where they're kind of puzzled. They're just like, what is going on? It's not just laughable anymore. It's
Hmm.
almost like they're intrigued. So really exciting. Looking forward to all the media and just all the excitement that's going to be in Dallas here in less than a week. I mean, I was just looking at the timer before I joined the show, and we're at less than a week away.
Yeah, that is amazing. And with regard to the kind of evolution of this topic and the way that it's been treated by mainstream and even alternative truth channels like InfoWars, there's been a lot of skepticism and a lot of difficulty overcoming what is the indoctrination of scientism on all of our lives.
Hmm.
And because of that, there's been, even for people that like Alex Jones and others that are in the alternative truth community, an unwillingness to examine it with open minded the way that they would any other topic, that
Hmm.
comes to the forefront.
Hmm.
And I think we're, kind of getting over a hump, sort of.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, yeah.
I
And
I agree.
so that's nice.
Yeah, I'm seeing that. I'm seeing that transition. I talk to a lot of journalists. I talk to a lot of media, and there's a lot of people behind the scenes that are going, "Wait a minute, we've looked into some things, and you got some good points. There's
Hmm.
questions that need to be asked, and we're for that." So again, I'm not saying all media is great, but there are some really good people in media that are starting to question it, because again, when it's the truth, you can't stop that, right? I mean, this cat's out of the bag. This is not going away. This is just
Right.
going to continually to grow. It's phenomenal. And I look at it like, this has always existed, throughout history, but something supernatural really took place in about 2014, 2015. And,
Right.
people just started waking up instantly. And it's the first time, Zen, I've ever seen where so many people, even when they can't agree when it comes to their belief system, they're all fighting against scientism. They're all fighting
Yes.
against the lies of evolution. And what evolution and the scientism has done has completely destroyed a creator in everyone's mind, right? They've literally
Right.
tried to eradicate the whole notion of a creator. So to me, it's like really supernatural in the sense that for the first time, when you're fighting this war against the lies, of scientism, before, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, it was always, it was always the church, it was always the Christians, it was always the believers, creationists versus evolutionists, right? This is the first time ever in history where you can look behind you with an army of people that they might not even understand fully who they're fighting for. They just know who they're fighting against.
Right. Right. Yeah, and then some of the other stuff we started to gain clarity once you join the battle, and you understand who the enemy is and the strategies of the enemy. Then the other things start to come to light. It reminds me of the German philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer. He stated that all truth goes through three steps. First, it is ridiculed. Second, it is violently opposed. And
Mm-hmm.
then finally, it is accepted as self-evident. And I think
Yes.
we are, between that second and third stage now, because the violent opposition, well, certainly all of us have been dealing with and contending with that in our lives, with the individuals and groups and people that, have contested us and argued against us and just condemned and attacked us without ever even seriously considering the topic. But when you really look at even the dynamics of water and the fact that their curvature is non-existent, I mean, it's not difficult to come to the truth of that what we've been told with regard to heliocentricity, centricity and the Copernican worldview, that it is flawed and it has to be reconsidered, because even if you don't believe the earth is flat or whatever you think about the shape and the dynamic of it, certainly there's no curvature and it's not moving. And so, those are two things you have to kind of figure out with regard to worldview and a model for trying to understand everything. And, so certainly all that we've been taught and indoctrinated into is flawed, and we have to overcome all that and accept something new.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, this year, even with the Flat Earth International Conference 2019 in Dallas, that's happening next week, November 14th and 15th. Even the speaker lineup and bringing everyone together, and I think it really represents kind of really truly what's happening with this
Hmm.
whole investigation. And I think that's incredibly amazing to see that. If you don't mind, I'll go through just the
Yeah,
speakers for people that
please.
are listening, so they kind of understand everyone that's going to be there. And again, if you want more information, go to flatearthconference.com or fe2019.com. We have Rob Skiba, we got Daryl Marble, we got Owen Benjamin, we got David Weiss, we got Matt Long, we got Mark Sargent, we got Jaron Campanella, we got Bob Nodal, we got Nathan Thompson, we got Shelley Lewis, we got Zen Garcia, myself, Jared Cressman, Nate Wolf, Paul on the Plane, Rick Hummer, Cami Nodal, Nathan Reynolds, Iro Landucci, Noel J. Hadley, Jason Lindgren, Zach Zabella, Taboo Conspiracy, Dave Marsh, Chris Bailey, Michael Solomon, Karen B., and Richard Schmidt. 28 speakers this year.
Wow, that's amazing.
So it's phenomenal, just the amount of workshops and the incredible stuff that's going to be brought to light. And I will do that if we have some time here. I'll probably just run through the schedule
Yeah,
just to give
please.
people an
Yeah.
idea of really what we're looking forward to. I was going to mention, if you are going to be in Dallas, make sure that you go to early registration on Wednesday, the 13th. That's November the 13th. It will start at 5 p.m. I strongly recommend that you get registered if you are going to be in Dallas and you're going to be at the venue early. We are going to be doing activism that afternoon, a couple blocks away at the big mall. It's going to be a lot of fun, so come by for sure. but the early registration will be at 5 p.m. The VIP speaker reception mixer will be between 7 and 10. And then the next morning on Thursday, registration will start at 7 a.m. So if you can't get to the venue, get there early because I would imagine lines are going to be pretty intense. That's for sure. But Thursday, that's November the 14th, doors are going to open at 8 a.m. 8 a.m. It's going to be an early morning. We kick off at 8:30. I will hit the stage giving my opening address. I will pass it on to Rick Hummer, the Master of Ceremonies of all my Flat Earth International conferences. He's actually been the MC for every single one, including the first one I ever did in Canada.
He does a great job.
Yeah, does an incredible job. Rick's amazing. Does a lot of stuff behind the scenes as well. So going to be amazing. Mark Sargent will be opening the conference with Flat Earth Clues, End of the World. We've got a coffee and tea break. Then we're into Flat Earth 101 with Nathan Thompson. At the same time, we've got a workshop presentation, The History of the Globe Deception with Chris Bailey and Michael Solomon. Then we go into Science or the True Creation with Nate Wolf. At the same time, workshop will be How the World Works with Cami Nodell and Zach Zabella. We have a lunch break. After lunch, we got Rob Skiba, Testing the Globe, Part 1, who really has the intellectual high ground. We're into Flat Earth According to D. Marble. And we have the first ever Spanish workshop with Irlanducci and Richard Schmidt, which is going to be great. They're going to be doing updates and just what's going on in the Spanish-speaking world. It's just exploding as far as the people that are resonating with the truth of enclosed cosmology. It's just amazing. We have an afternoon break. Then we're into Flat Earth and the Great Perception with Matt Long. At the same time, we got our Flat Earth Journey workshop happening with Taboo Conspiracy. After that, we'll do Globebusters Live with Bob, Jaron, Iru, and Ben from Globebusters. We have our dinner break, and then we're into the Flat Earth Game Show. This will be a real fun thing. Don't miss it. You will actually be part of a movie. We're going to be shooting a movie there, and everyone that's in participation, but it's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of laughs, and you'll learn something as well. After that, we're into the Owen Benjamin Comedy Show. He'll be on between 8 and 10 for a 2-hour special, and he's really looking forward to it. I think we're going to have a great time. And even just looking at Owen's journey, coming, I mean, it was actually a little bit less than even Rob Skiba, but it took him months and months and months. He finally just recently, in the last week or two, finally came out and said, yep, I'm 100% flat earther.
Right.
So yeah,
awesome.
which was just incredible because we would have accepted him either way coming to the conference, even if he was a Globe skeptic. But now it's going to be interesting because he's literally come right around to, he's like, you know what? I'm proud of it. I'm definitely flat. So it's kind of cool. Yeah. So the next day, the doors will open at 8 o'clock a.m. and 8:30 we kick off with day 2. I will hit the stage shortly afterwards over to Rick Hummer, the Master of Ceremonies. Rob Skiba will start off the morning with Testing the Globe Part 2, examining the preponderance of evidence. We'll have a coffee and tea break. Then we're into Space is Fake with Paul on the Plane. At the same time, we've got Flat Earth Perspectives workshop happening with David Weiss and Matt Long. Then we've got Jaron Campanella with NASA going nowhere since 1958.
Love it.
I know. At the same time, we've got the Unexpected Cosmology with Noel J. Hadley. We go into lunch. After lunch, we got Jared Cressman with The War Between Good and Evil. At the same time, workshop will be the social engineering of our worldview, space, and space travel from Jason Lindgren. We have a little break, and then we're into Flat Earth Rising, a call to action with Shelley Lewis. Also, Testing the Moon, a Global-Eye Perspective workshop will be taking place. We have an afternoon break, and then we're into Bob Nodell, Oh My Stars, It's Impossible. As well, we'll have Zen Garcia giving the workshop, Winning for Flat Earth. Then we've got the conclusion of the conference for the day. Nathan Reynolds will be closing out FEIC 2019, Standing for the Truth. Then we have the VIP speaker dinner as well as the dinner break, and then we're into the Flat Earth Q&A mega panel. This year, what we're going to be doing is we're going to have an app or a website where we're going to be announcing where you can ask questions of any speaker, and then we'll be picking from those questions. So everyone will be able to participate and have their questions, and they'll be voted, and we'll decide which one's in there. But it will be all interactive, which will be really nice. And then finally, we're going to have the Patricia Steer Flat Earth Video Awards 2019, hosted by Mark Sargent and Karen B. And this year, we're doing something a little bit different, Zen. We're not just going to be giving out awards. We're actually going to have musical acts and some other performances that will take place during the award show. So that's going to be really fun. Yeah. And then to close everything off, closing remarks by myself, and also some special guests giving some insight into what's in store for 2020.
That's amazing, brother. What an awesome lineup. And, the individuals that you have come in and that are included as part of the conference, these individuals have been on the forefront of this particular movement for a very long time. And each of us have been shaped, by the growing momentum of it. And it's affected us in relationship as well, because a lot of us have been on each other's broadcasts. We've done shows together, videos, documentaries, and really we're like a close-knit motley crew, a family,
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. I get
And
the same. I get the same. Reaction, especially with all the people that have been assembled for FEIC 2019. I really do believe that God's hand has been in the whole thing, because there's a lot of like new faces. There's different people, and really, I expect some huge things to happen in Dallas. For this, I was going to mention as well. If you aren't able to get to Dallas, make sure you sign up for the 2-day all access live stream at flatearthconference.com. Check out the live stream. We actually are going to be live streaming both stages simultaneously. So you'll be able to pick
nice.
and choose as well. You'll have the replay for a year afterwards. So you will have access to the conference if you can't watch it live, or you want to watch it later, or you miss a session. But we will be live streaming both at the same time. So this is a first for FEIC. We've always just been able to live stream the main stage, but we will have main stages and workshops live streamed simultaneously. And you'll be able to pick and choose, what stream you want to watch and when. So again, I encourage you to sign up for the 2-day all access live stream at flatearthconference.com, and it's $40 for both days. That includes Owen Benjamin, the Flat Earth Video Awards, everything.
That's great. And for people that don't know who Owen Benjamin is, he's a comedian and a very funny guy, and has a huge audience as well, people that have been following his journey. And that's great that, he's come full circle now and understands, the fullness of this particular issue, and is willing to take a public stance on it and to put himself out there with regard to standing for this truth.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah,
Uh,
and that's the thing too. And also, I'm really excited about this year's theme. I mean, last year was taking it to the next level. This year's tagline or theme of FEIC 2019 is finding the creator through creation. I
awesome.
felt I felt it was really important. It's not about beating people over the head with something, but it's saying like, listen, anyone that comes to this truth, I don't care where you are in your journey or what your belief system is, you now have identified that there's a creator. You were created unique and special. You believe that he's right above you. So isn't it time to get more fascinated with the creator than just the
Yes.
creation itself? And while it's a noble pursuit to investigate the creation, because truly the creation testifies to the creator. And there's
Right.
clues in the creation of who he is. But it's really an urging, it's a calling to say, listen, let's get fascinated. Let's find out if we can find out who the true creator is. Because as truthers, we only desire truth. And I think we have the realization that it can't be a globe and flat at the same time. Both can't be true. Well, the same with the spiritual nature. There can only be one truth. And
Right.
there was only one person, the Messiah, Jesus, Yeshua. He's the only person ever in history to say, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one
Amen.
comes to the Father except through me. The question is, who is he?
Yes.
Can we find out? Because what's extraordinary then is when you read the Bible, it clearly says that Yeshua, Jesus, the Messiah, he is the creator. All things were created by him and through him, and
Yes.
nothing was created. And
Right.
that to me is fascinating. It's one thing when we're talking creator or we're talking God or something, but when we stop and think about the fact that that is what the Bible is testifying, who is this guy? Who is this
Right.
man? Right? So really, it's going to be an urging just to say, listen, we're all amazed about how does the sun work? How do the stars? How far are they? How small are they? What are they? But it's like, let's start moving towards getting fascinated and finding out together if we can truly seek the true creator of creation behind all of this. Because it's getting to a point now where we're in wonderment. We're like little children again, looking up in the sky. Well, remember, he's behind the whole thing.
Right.
And he wants to get to know you personally.
Yes, absolutely. Great point. And yeah, that's a wonderful theme for the entirety of the conference. And, again, for a lot of people that were skeptical and even militant atheists. The fact that there's intelligent design to the creation forces them to consider that there is a creator behind the
Hmm.
establishment
It
of
does,
all
but it
things.
goes one step further though, Zen. Before,
Yes,
like 10 years ago when I was talking to people I'd run into, they say, "Oh, I believe in a higher power." Or I
right,
believe
right.
there was nothing personal. But here's what's really amazing about flat Earth. No matter who you talk to, they're like, "We were created unique and
Hmm.
special. He's right above us. He's close. He must want some sort of relation." So to me, it's changed. It's shifted. It's not just people in flat Earth believe in a higher power anymore. They
Right,
believe that something is identified as making them special and unique. And the fact that they believe he's right above and that the world's trying to hide him from them, then there must be something there, a little bit more than, meets the eye. So I just
right.
find that people are at that point anyways, where they're like, it's just strange, but I understand it's a spiritual nature. And that's probably why deep down inside, they're not waking up every morning and going, yeah, okay, I'm going to study the sun today. Wait a minute. What about the creator that created the sun?
Amen. Amen. All right, we'll be right back, everyone. For the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead. All right, welcome back, everybody. I wanted to give you a chance, Robbie, to speak about, further anything that you'd like to bring forth with regard to the conference. Owen Benjamin being the leading act and having presenting a comedy show that evening, and also anything else as far as like news or current events or anything that has come forth, which, because you know and keep a pulse on all of these things with regard to flat Earth, cosmology, anything that you'd like to share that's come forward, over the past few months or yeah, anything
Yeah,
like that.
there's like so many things. I don't know
Yeah, I'm
where
sure.
to start. I mean, yeah, my head's spinning because, like I said, this is we're in crunch time. This week has been incredibly busy for me. I can't think of any other week that has been more busy, and definitely in the
Uh-huh.
last year. It's been insane. Like I have so many things to deal with a conference, of this magnitude,
Right.
dealing with, security teams and police and dealing with like exhibitors and all these sort of things. Speaking of which, you're going to have a presence there, a nice big presence there with your son and daughter-in-law with Sacred Word Publishing. We've got you all set up for the exhibitor area and stuff, which is really exciting. You've been, right from the very first one, Zen.
Hmm.
You've been involved even from 2017 and stuff, and it's just incredible too. Even just with the expansion and just how many, books that have been published. And again,
Right.
even if you didn't have any other books, I think just your own catalog, you could do a whole table. You've got so
Right.
many
Yeah.
books. It's like I always
Yeah.
talk about that, as an author, but you're on book, what's 13, 14, 15,
24.
24, sorry. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
24 books.
Yeah.
Wow. Like that's incredible. So yeah, no, it's really exciting just working with all the elements and putting it together. And I'm just really, really excited about this one above even the very first one ever in Raleigh, North Carolina. Denver, was special. The first one in Canada. But there's something really special coming for Dallas. When I said last year, taking it to the next level, even all the elements, the stage design, I think when the doors open and people actually see what they see, I think it's going to take their breath away. Really are going to a whole new level this year with stage production, with just all the elements. I want to make sure that it's just as great as it can be, but it's just absolutely amazing. It's going to be great to see everyone, including yourself. And you've obviously participated before, and you know exactly what kind of time it is. It's a great time. You had
Yeah.
a great time in Denver, and it's going to be wonderful to see you again. But I always tell people with these conferences, it's amazing with the sessions and the speakers, but really it's all about the community. It's all about the
Right.
people, it's all about just getting to know people and talking and the friendships that are forged going forward. And really in this type of topic, it can feel isolating. It can feel, some people, can go
Yes.
through depression. I mean, they start finding that there's divides in the family, and it's hard to talk to someone. So really, that's a really big element, I would think, of FEIC and these flat Earth conferences that are happening. It just brings people together, right? Allows you to know that you're not alone. There is a lot of people, and I can say that every year that I've been in this since 2015. Every year it just grows and grows and grows, and it's just continuing on a rapid pace. I've never seen anything like it ever. In the over 25 years of ministry that I've been involved with, I've never seen anything like this that can instantly change an atheist in a split second.
Right.
By finding out that NASA lied, and instantly they come to the magnitude that there's a creator, right? Wow, I was lied to. We are unique and special. Like I said, in the first segment, that is the one thing that we're dealing with. It doesn't matter if it's Jaron Campanella, or it doesn't matter where they are, they'll say they're hiding God. There is a God, and what is different, I think, with this is that it's personal. It's more relational, right? Because they'll say we're created unique and special. And I think that really hits home. And I think that he's really trying to call a lot of people back to him. And he is using creation. He is using the truth to do that, like he always has. But there's something very significant with the lies of scientism. Like I say, everyone's worldview, no matter what belief system, whether you're an atheist, you've all been shaped by what scientism has taught you from an early age, from kindergarten, from in the crib, the mobiles as you're going around have little solar systems, I mean, this is deep. This is incredibly deep, the level of deception that's been taking place in people's lives. And that's why it's so hard sometimes for people just to, what? The earth is flat? I tell people that, if someone walked up to you and said, hey, will you watch this 2-hour documentary and I've got 5 books for you, I really think the moon is made of blue cheese. Well, how much time do you think a person's going to devote in their busy life already to sit down and start reading these books or even watching a 2-hour documentary, right? They won't give it the time of day.
Right.
Well, flat Earth is a million times crazier than that in people's mind, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the first reaction, right? And remember, a lot of us, we were already kind of truthers to start with. We were already on that journey. We'd already looked into the lies of the world, the world's elite, or 9/11, or JFK. It doesn't matter where you are on that spectrum. You've already kind of grown. You've already been on that journey. For whatever reason, you were taken on that journey. So it was a lot more palatable for you. Even as crazy as it was when it first was presented to you, you still had an open mind, maybe a little bit. Maybe you're like, fine, I'll look into it. But there's a lot of people that they have a hard time believing that 9/11 was an inside job.
Right.
Well, if they think that, don't get on flat Earth. You got work to do. Like I always say, start with the moon landing. When I'm traveling, if I'm shooting a documentary or I'm traveling even for the conference, and I'm sitting beside someone on the plane, I always just get into NASA. I just get into the moon. And I mean, most people, they kind of start shaking their head. They're like, why has it been 5 decades and no other man's been up there, that kind of thing. And they're like, yeah, that is kind of weird, right? All this technology. So you get them thinking, and if you can crack that foundation, in NASA and the whole moon thing, well, then they're going to be more open. I say that Antarctica and the moon are the 2 gateways into flat Earth. If you can get people really questioning Antarctica or the moon, they're going to be open to finding out, because the question is, if they haven't been to the moon, how far can they go? And why would they lie? And why would they lie? Because that's the biggest thing. And I think that's the hardest thing, unless you bring a spiritual element into it. It makes no sense. Money, power, that makes no sense. Oh, money, power. Well, give me a break. There's lots of ways to make money, right? Without lying to the entire world about, their very existence. So, I mean, if you don't bring a spiritual element into it, it's not satisfying for someone to say, oh, control, power, money. You have to sit there and say, there's a spiritual war at place, right? There is this huge war taking place. And this is the reason why the devil, Satan, would have the whole world, moving in this direction, because not only to deceive the world and take them away from the creator, but also to prepare them for what's to come, to get them in a worldview that they would easily believe the great deception or something that would come into the world that would be easier to digest if you had a heliocentric Big Bang worldview.
Right. Yeah, I think that is the most important aspect of what many of us that have been involved in this particular topic of research, that we've had to come to understand that with regard to the whole ancient alien premise, the coming reign of the Antichrist, that this is the setup for all of that, in my opinion.
Correct.
And and people that, again, have been looking at and examining this issue for a number of years now, it's the end game. And that is what, and again, these are advanced concepts, and I absolutely agree with you that we have to bring people in slowly and appeal to them in a manner that they will be open to
Yeah.
allowing those seeds to be planted, because
Hmm.
otherwise, they're just going to run the other way. And
Sure.
especially if they're not um, have no understanding of the New World Order or the global elite or of their, as far as the Illuminati, the eye at the top of the pyramid, all of that, the symbolism of how that represents humanity, and then the spiritual forces, what Paul references as the powers, principalities, the rulers of darkness, wickedness in high places. All of those things just are above the understanding of most people
Hmm.
in the world. And
Hmm.
so if they don't understand that, they're certainly not going to get, well, why would they lie? And as you said, oh, it's just for money and power, because this is a spiritual war. And so you have to kind of appeal to them in that manner. But
Hmm.
you want them to at least begin to examine the issue so that in doing the research, then they can be led to these ultimate conclusions, the things that you portrayed and revealed in Scientism Exposed,
Hmm. Hmm.
and how you tied it all together over several documentaries and the global lie and
Hmm.
all of the other things that you've done. And so very important. And I think all of us, now that we've been kind of doing this for a while, we've learned to appeal to people in that way. And I think that this is something that those people that are just now new and excited and wanting to tell the world, to shout the truth from the rooftops about flat Earth, that they also have to learn these kind of things so that they
Hmm.
can learn to plant the seeds in a manner that they'll be received.
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, I
Yeah.
totally 100% agree with you there. And that's the thing is like know your audience, kind of know who you're talking to. But
Yes.
in the end of the day, really, flat Earth itself is a means to an end. Sorry, the globe deception is really a lot of people think that's the biggest lie, right? But it's not the biggest lie. That's put in place to hide you from the truth of the
Yes.
creator. I mean,
Exactly
that
right.
really is a lot bigger in the spiritual, aspects of what we're talking about. But
Hmm.
yeah, when it gets into these type of topics, you really have to understand the magnitude of what's going on in this world, the spiritual war that we're in, and understand, there is no limit of where Satan will not go as far as deceiving the entire world, and especially keeping them away from the truth and bringing honor to himself. I will arise above the stars. I will be
Yes.
like the Most
Exactly.
High, right? We
Right.
see that, and I always say that, when I'm giving presentations at different conferences, I bring the fact that who was the first one to aspire to go to space? It was Satan.
Right. Exactly.
Right? It
Yes.
was Satan, right? And he's aspiring men in their hearts to like do the same thing. Tower of Babel, same type of thing, right?
Right.
It's always like, this is the way, So again, we're kind of, when you started looking before, when we started kind of looking at the universe as believers, really we were marveling maybe at something, but really we were marveling at, an intelligence behind it, because there's always that case and scenario where people will say, well, look at the intelligence behind the universe per se, right? But again, if it's all constructed by an evil adversary, there would be intelligence behind it because he is intelligent, right?
Hmm.
He's an
Right.
intelligent being, right? So again, he's not going to put something together that just leads us to think that, oh, that's just sloppy. It would be kind of in that direction. So of course, he's orchestrated something where all of a sudden we start now, all of a sudden, he's convincing us that we came from stardust.
Hmm.
As and we look at the Morning Star and all these references, but really it's unbelievable how you get like Aleister Crowley talking about every man, every woman as a star. Now you got all the scientists saying we come from stardust. There is
Right.
something to do with these stars, right? And we can see this, biblically, we can see this throughout, history. And I would imagine that you've done a lot of research in this, especially with the Nephilim and all these type of
Right.
orchestrations. But I agree, a lot of flat earthers will go one direction. And maybe that's what they're tasked for. Maybe, they're going to focus on the creation. They're going to focus on the mechanics of it all and stuff. And everyone's got their pursuits. But I think everyone deep down inside, when they wake up in the morning or they go to sleep, they still have to wonder, wait a minute, there's a creator behind this whole thing. right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's my job. That's what God's kind of led me to do, is
Right.
to really, really draw people to him using this. And again, there's no doubt in my mind that millions of people have been drawn. I mean, so many people are being drawn by the day, but encouraging people to really seek out not just the creation and the truth of that, but the truth of the creator, the one that
Yeah.
created it all.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you tell us kind of, because I'm sure that a lot of people reach out to you and communicate with you and ask you about things or make you aware of issues or stories that are coming up in the mainstream with regard to this issue. And so, can you kind of tell us about your feeling, the youth and, the movement, just, and even with the, now the 50th anniversary of the
Sure.
moon landings and how that is also brought this to the forefront.
I think right now in the first stage of this entire like spiritual awakening, I think our job is to educate people. It's not to convince them, it's not to change them, but it's
Yeah.
to educate them on what we believe, not what we believe so much, but what we don't believe. None of us
Uh-huh.
believe that we're a flying pancake in space.
Right.
None of us believe we can fall over the edge. Well, when you start, you have to remember the minute you mention flat Earth to someone, they start laughing at you. Just know that in their brain is a mental image of a flying pancake around these other
Yes.
spherical planets. So
Right.
you've got to get them down. You got to ground them in the sense of saying, wait a minute, but that's not what any of us believe. We're not part of the flat Earth society, right? None of us are that, right? So what does it mean? And I'm not talking just biblical cosmology. I'm talking about any of the modern day flat earthers in the 21st century. None of them believe this nonsense of like accelerating upwards throughout space. I have not run into anyone yet where I've had a
Right.
discussion where they believe that. So just like the Bible says, the earth is still. It's at rest. It does not move, right?
Hmm.
We all
Yes.
believe that. We all believe that, regardless where you're at. It doesn't matter if you're enclosed or not enclosed. We all believe that the earth doesn't move, everything else does. So there's one
Right.
commonality. But then
Hmm.
also the idea of the fact of, everything has to do with education. So, I mean, when I'm in front of the cameras, I make sure with the media and stuff to really, hit that home and the fact of like, well, wait a minute. Oh, you guys don't believe that. Well, what do you believe? Well, we believe this. At least get them to a point where they're going to at least start documenting what we believe.
Right.
We got
Right.
our work to do. And also, a lot of people think, but next year the whole world's going to wake up to this truth. I could be wrong, but I don't believe so. I do believe this is a generational thing. This is
Yes.
not something that the entire world, it's like almost saying that, next year the whole world's going to wake up to the fact that evolution was a lie. Well, no, it's probably not going to happen, right? And again, I could
Right.
be wrong, and I'll admit to it if I am. But most likely, we're looking at a generational type thing. I
Yes.
do
Yes.
believe that our children and our children's children will pick up for this, and this will be in the history books. This will be written, this, and they'll look back on it and they'll remember these times. And I mean, all the struggles and the laughter and all that. Like you had mentioned before, the stages, right? Go
Yes.
through the stages one more time for the audience of
Yeah.
everything that it goes through. And these things can happen over 10, 20 years, not over a year to year. You know what I mean? These
Right.
are different processes that take place, but maybe just go through that one more time for the audience.
Yeah. German philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer, he stated that all truth goes through three stages. And the first is it is ridiculed. The second, it is violently opposed. And finally, the third, it is accepted as self evident. And so we mentioned her earlier that I believe we're in between the second and the third stage now.
Correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
correct. And we might still be in kind of that, that laughter stage, but again, there's a
Oh,
lot
yeah,
less people
definitely less
laughing.
there.
There's a lot less
Right.
people laughing because they're like, well, wait a minute, why isn't this going away? Really? This is still a thing? And so that's why it's good to have this media attention, even if it's negative. Because I tell this to everyone all the time because people are so up in arms about bad pieces, whether it's a hit piece, whether it was Logan Paul, what doesn't matter. The fact is when you introduce over 20 million people to a topic, if 2% start seriously just starting
Right.
asking questions, that's an incredible ripple effect if
Right.
you're talking generational, right? Because
Yes.
they're going to pass it down and pass it down. But here's
Mhm.
case in point then. The first video I came across in 2015 was a video done in 2007. And it was an atheist making fun of the Bible using illustrations and cartoons, showing exactly what the Bible teaches if you took it literal. So
Right.
what I'm saying is while he was trying to mock it and make fun of it and make this real laughable thing that everyone was having a good laugh, I wasn't laughing. I said, wait,
Right.
that's what the Bible says. Why does the Bible say that? And from there, when I saw the fact that he put flat earth in his title, I'm like, what is this flat earth? because he doesn't really touch on that in there. He shows like a dome under the water and there's fish, swimming around. They're hitting the dome and it's just ridiculous, right? But I'm like, flat Earth. So I type it in and I find Mark Sargent's Flat Earth Clues. Well, once I watched that, I was down the rabbit hole. I just was sucked in, and I couldn't get enough. Back in 2015, you ran out and you waited the next day for more to come because you couldn't devour it all. Now you can't get to a point where you couldn't keep up with it if you tried. But back then, you could you exhaust all your options, your documentaries, your videos, and you're done. And hopefully there's going to be 2 more that would pop up in the next week or whatever. So again, for me, though, I came to this, God humbled me through an atheist, but I came to this through ridicule and laughter. So why are we so scared with hit pieces or people that are going to make fun of us or they're going to laugh at us? Because it all comes down to the ripple effect. It takes one person like me that God used, and all of a sudden now I'm doing documentaries, YouTube channel, and then I'm all of a sudden called to do the Flat Earth International Conference, the first conference ever in the history of the world. I mean, that atheist had no clue when he was putting that video of what his plan was for me when I would come across it. And all of a sudden, all the people that he has touched through me. I mean, so I'm just one person. But again, everyone has that story. And it doesn't matter where you're at, because you might be surprised when all of a sudden you look back and you see the ripple effect. You don't know that life you're going to touch, that person you talk to, what happens. Remember, we're not going to see the ripple effect. And that's the most amazing thing. So I say to people all the time, it's about one person at a time. It's not about multitudes. It's not about waking up the whole world. It's tell people the truth. The truth will set them free. And honestly, we're called to share the gospel. But again, when we're looking at the fact when it comes to the gospel and the person that was behind it all and leading everyone back to the Creator, again, this is just another tool that can be used. This is not the gospel itself. But again, it's a vehicle to get to people to the gospel. Because when they understand that there is a great redemptive story behind this whole thing, and that you don't have to be in despair and you don't have to live in fear, that you fear not, right? Greater is he that is in you than he who is in the world. Absolutely. And understand that when you're called to be an ambassador for him, you have nothing to fear because he is on your side. And it doesn't matter what happens, the hurdles, the pitfalls. Again, when you're an ambassador and when you have a mission from the Most High, again, things will be accomplished for his glory.
Absolutely. And you never know how the Most High is going to use whatever. And just as you said, there's all these people mocking us, making fun of us, condemning, judging us, but yet those things that they put out to poke fun and to ridicule, it could turn somebody's life around and pique their interest and give them opportunity to examine this issue. Because I know for a lot of people, I've heard from a lot of individuals that said, I saw something on Flat Earth, thought it was the most ridiculous thing, and I opened it just to have a laugh, And then all of a sudden they're being forced to consider, well, why does water, collect and pool at a level, and why is there, can you see all these things beyond what should be the, as far as curvature, and so, those kind of things, you never know what it's going to be, but yes, the Most High uses everything for the glory of God. And
we've been called to this. That's why I don't discount other ministries that are on the path that are leading people to the gospel in other ways, because we can't elevate ourselves in thinking that this is the be all end all. You've got to believe in this or there's no hope for you. Well, that's not the case at all. But when you have a calling and when this is a passion and he lights that fire in your soul, again, go with it, knowing that basically he's behind you the whole way and that seriously people's lives will be changed for eternity. I mean, that is the reality of what we're talking about here. But don't start elevating yourself, number one, first, because you didn't come to this. You weren't smart enough. You weren't smarter than your neighbor. This was a spiritual awakening. You were chosen. You were chosen. Again, I know that you and I can probably agree, Zen, on, the whole predestination versus free will thing. But when we're getting into this type of topic, truly, I mean, this is one of the things where we can't take credit for. This is something miraculous that took place. But when you have that calling on your life, then do it and do it to the best of ability. But don't start looking down on other people because they're doing different things, whether it's SRA, satanic ritual abuse. That's their ministry. Even if they're not into flat earth, it's okay because all of a sudden they are setting people free. I mean, they're doing stuff that is needed in the kingdom. Remember, this is a kingdom mentality. We're all different parts of the body. It's like the elbow was looking at the knee and saying, you're bending wrong. He's like, no, I'm not. He's like, yeah, you're bending wrong, right?
Right.
It's like the knee will bend differently than the elbow. And that's really what we're looking at here. And we have the tendency to like criticize others rather than just looking at ourselves and saying, this is what I've been placed at. This is my mission. I'm an ambassador for him this way at this point in life. So then do it. Do it. Because again, people's lives are being changed. And really, if it's not for the gospel, this is all in vain. If this is, so that's the way I look at it. And everything that I've kind of, set out to do, whether it's my channel, Celebrate Truth on YouTube, whether it's my documentaries. And again, I think that even just in general, when it comes to this topic is not just the be all on the front of everything. I mean, there's so much more, I'm more well-rounded in so many different topics. I mean, it's great to talk about, but I don't need to talk about it all day either. It's something that I know is there and it's in my arsenal and I can talk about it, and the right person at the right time will wake up to it and it could change their life, because once they realize they've been lied to and they're not just a random accident and a big bang explosion, that they're special and there's a reason behind that. And all of a sudden they understand the redemptive story and why he came and died and what he did and what he purchased. You know what I mean? For us.
Yes.
It's not a religion system where it's like we pray enough or we're good enough. The fact that he knew that we couldn't do it on our own, he had to do it for us, is it's the most beautiful love story ever.
Absolutely.
But it's not even a story. It's not even a book. It's the truth. And that's the thing. That's why the Bible is so criticized. That's why the Messiah, Jesus, Yeshua, is so completely, taken down and doubted and all these things. No one doubts Julius Caesar. When they look at Julius Caesar, they never go, I don't think Julius Caesar existed. Well, if you look at the original manuscripts, there's like nothing. You look at the original manuscripts under Jesus, I mean, there's plenty. And I mean, recorded close to, so much. So when people really use their brain and start looking at it, go, wait a minute, why am I doubting Jesus Christ when I'm not doubting Julius Caesar? You know what I mean? Because Julius Caesar is more credible than he is, right? So it's really seeking that. I always urge people, I'm like, look, man, do whatever you can to really seek out, is he who he said he is? Because if he is, he literally will, number one, change your life, but listen to everything he says, because everything is going to come to pass.
Right. And, as far as the prophecies and the Old Testament prophets, and even the Mazzaroth, the stars and the story of them, they all point to his coming, his first advent, and his second. That's the most important thing.
All the feasts. I mean, all the feasts point to him.
Feasts,
everything.
Exactly.
Mazzaroth. I mean, looking right into Genesis, right? This whole thing has been orchestrated, but it's all about him, right? Everything is about him. That's the thing. They're not separated. They're all about him.
Right. Absolutely. We'll be right back, everyone, for second hour. All right. Welcome back, everybody, for second hour. I'm your host, Zen Garcia. This is Seekers Revealed here on Truth Frequency Radio. I'm honored to have as guests with me both book author, radio host, and Flat Earth Conference organizer, Robbie Davidson. Robbie, can you give out all of your information, website once more, and let people know where they can go to find information about the upcoming Flat Earth Conference that will be going down in just about a week's time? I mean, it is
less than a week. It really is. Yeah, you can go to my website at celebratetruth.org. That's where you'll find my documentary, Scientism Exposed and Scientism Exposed 2, with featuring Zen Garcia in the sequel there, and also my book. As far as on YouTube, you could check out Celebrate Truth. My documentaries are there, as well as about 500 other videos. So you could check that out for free if you want to. And also with the conference, I would strongly suggest, if you're not able to get to Dallas, sign up for the live stream. We actually, just before the show's end, we sold out of VIP tickets. So the VIP tickets are all sold out. We have general admission only left right now. We've got quite a few left, so don't worry. I can't see that selling out, but there's plenty of general admission tickets left. But yeah, get the live stream. We will be live streaming both stages. It's $40 for both days. That includes Owen Benjamin, the Flat Earth Video Awards, the Flat Earth Game Show, all the evening entertainment, and much more. So that would be something that you probably want to look into at flatearthconference.com or fe2019.com.
Excellent. And if you can attend, if you can make it, and you can swing getting there within a week's time, please do. And I know that everybody will look forward to meeting you and getting a chance to share, not only meal and conversation and good discussion, but hearty laugh and good times. So
That's the one time where it's like I definitely try to stop and talk to everyone, but you probably get about 2 minutes. I'm
yeah,
like running
yeah, right,
around as a
yeah.
as the organizer. I always feel bad about it, but everyone
We
realizes it, and
understand.
they
Yeah,
do, they understand. But I've got like a million things, and I've got like people talking to me in my ear with the earpiece and all that. But I mean, I do enjoy making time for everyone. I do want to meet everyone. I really appreciate all the prayers and support and just people that have been following just my ministry and Celebrate Truth for years now. I mean, going into, summer of 2015. It's hard to believe, Zen, when you
wow,
actually look at the
yeah,
journey, how much has transpired in that time. And a lot of people, whether they came into it then or 16 or 17, I mean, we're already going into 2020. I mean, we're
I
literally
know.
all at the 5-year mark, and
Yeah,
it's
it's amazing.
unbelievable how many things have taken place. I mean, just the very fact that you're at a point now where, I'll put on FEIC, in Raleigh, Denver, Dallas, and then Edmonton, Alberta, Canada for the very first one in Canada. And yet this is a topic that just intrigues the media. Regardless, it draws people out. And here's what's fascinating, Zen. They get drawn out, and all of a sudden on mainstream news, millions of viewers, network television, all of a sudden there's Bible verses being quoted. I mean, have you ever
Right.
thought of that?
Yes.
Have you ever thought of the fact that he is drawing people through this and they are covering the Bible? They're
Yeah,
covering
it's
the literal
amazing.
interpretation. They're quoting scripture. They're getting
Right.
people, quoted. And I'm saying I've never seen anything like that. You put on a Christian or a Bible conference or whatever. I mean, you'd almost have to pay media to come. I mean, they wouldn't
Right.
be interested. So
Right.
I just look at it. It's fascinating. This is a fascinating part of history. I mean, we're at a really incredible part right now, in his story. And it's just amazing to be part of the ride and just understand that, you're part of something very special. Sometimes people think, oh, this is kind of going on. But really, when you look back on it, it's going to be a very pivotal point in mankind's history when it comes to just this massive awakening that really is not going to change. They're not all of a sudden, you can't, like, once you see the lies, there's nothing to prove it otherwise. It's almost like, they're never going to be landing on the moon and walking around.
Right.
Therefore, the people are like, yeah, that's all a lie. Space is a lie. So this is extraordinary if you think of the fact of just how many people, the parents. What's really encouraging is how many parents are bringing their children to FEIC.
Yes.
That's really encouraging to see because again, they are the next generation, and I do
Right.
believe this is generational. I do believe very
Absolutely.
strongly this is generational, and we have to look at the next generation and what they're going to impart. So when we're imparting to our children or just the youth, again, it's really important. And what's really nice is that we're not trying to tell them what to believe. We're telling them how to think. We're telling them that don't listen to anyone. Go do your own research. And that is such a beautiful message when you're saying it's okay to ask questions. Go do your own research. Don't
Right.
listen to authorities. Don't listen to just what someone says because people have been saying a lot for a very long time. And now many are realizing that these things weren't holding up to true empirical science and they were holding it under the scientific banner. And we're realizing it was scientism all along.
Right. It is amazing to me because there's always these, the Baptists and the Pentecost and the Methodists, they have these revivals where they have these huge tent gatherings
Mm-hmm.
and they get everybody to come out and they get them all kind of revitalized for, an awakening to truth but this is the real deal, this is
Mm-hmm.
what is really happening and with regard to individuals bringing their families and their childrens, and
Mm-hmm.
how these individuals are the next generation, the new teachers, and how they're going to be the ones that others are going to be looking to and asking for guidance and direction on truth. It reminds me of Matt Long's his daughter or the young girl that's won the award for just the
Oh
videos
yeah,
that
that
she
that
made.
yeah. Summer Lowen is actually his wife's sister,
A sister. Okay, yeah.
sister-in-law. Yep.
Amazing. I mean, the
Mm-hmm.
things that she does and the people that she has touched and the information that she's imparted. I mean, she most certainly is.
She's an aspiring
leading.
filmmaker. I've told her
Yeah,
many times. I've talked to some.
absolutely.
I said, keep it up, girl, because
Right.
you're an aspiring, real, true filmmaker. To have that much editing skills and just creativity as a director, and she's just starting out. I really think there's some really huge things in store for her as she continues on with her.
Absolutely.
I've told her that, from one filmmaker
Yeah.
to another, I was always amazed at the level of what she can do, and she can coordinate a lot of people together to get something done very quickly. Her whole family
Right.
at this point. But when she branches
Yeah.
off, she starts getting other people involved. I mean, she's going to come up with some really creative stuff for sure. Beyond,
Absolutely.
so yeah,
Yeah, I think
it's
she's
really
got
encouraging.
skill set for
She
sure.
really does. She really
Yeah.
does, and that's the most amazing thing is you're seeing that it happen. But I always go back to this Zen in the way that literally he will confound the wise with fools. Because
Right.
again, to the world, we're foolish, and we're supposed to be.
Right.
We're peculiar people, right? We're
Right.
foolish to the world, and I think that's exactly what's going on. He is confounding. He is completely getting the world to a point where they're just like, "What is going on?" These guys are the craziest, stupidest people ever, right? But yet
Right.
all of a sudden it's growing and people's lives are changing and they're like, this thing's not stopping. What's going on? How is it that people that have no IQ can do this? And again, that's the way they're viewing it, right? But we read in the
Exactly.
Bible all the time that this is exactly the way the Most High operates. He loves
Right.
to do things with the lowly, right? We read about the Messiah. There was nothing to attract people to him physically, right? Like
Hmm.
it's like him to grab something and basically take the lowest to make the lowest the greatest. The last will
Right.
be first and the first will be last.
Yes.
These type of things. And I
Meek
look at
shall
it
inherit the earth. Yeah.
exactly. So the way the world looks at like these guys are really dumb. Really, you're really dumb if you believe the earth is flat. And yet watch what happens. Sit back in history and see what these quote unquote flat earthers really do. Because again, it's not what they're doing, it's what he's doing through them.
Yes, absolutely. I was just quoting a little bit ago in the chat room from Romans professing themselves to be wise, they became fools.
Yes.
And, I mean, that is the way of it. Um, you Let God be true and every man a liar. I mean, those kind of things are found in all throughout Scripture, and it is the truth about how the so-called wise, they are humbled at every turn of the way. And
They actually believe they're flying through the universe over 1 million miles an hour. I mean, think
right,
about it.
right,
Just think about that. Just stop and think about exactly what the angelic realm must think when they're shaking their head and they're like, they actually are teaching this. They actually
right,
believe this. Like,
right.
like they must want to tell so bad. Can we just
Hmm.
scream this to the world? Like, no,
Yes, exactly. Right,
you're stationary. You know what I mean?
right,
But it's
right.
like exactly he will allow this to happen, right? And this is the
Hmm.
this is the depravity of man. This is the levels of what depravity will take man to, right? Especially with an influence, an evil influence behind the whole thing. But really, it really, says that scripturally over and over again that he literally will turn people into fools. It says they will believe fables. I mean, we're
Yes,
talking about fables. We always talk about like, science fiction and stuff and fairy tales, but really this is fairy tales for adults because it
right.
carries on and we start with all this fascination as we're young, but then pretty soon it gets all civilized and we wear white coats and we're like, we're scientists and you know what I mean?
Yes,
And we know
yes.
everything. And it's like they don't have a clue. I mean, they've gone and said it. I have this quote, in Scientism Exposed, where they're off by a factor of like, I forget, to 120 as far
Right.
as cosmology is concerned. So this is them, scientists, admitting they really don't know. And yet this is taught as scientific fact, right? This is exactly what would be going on because they don't have the truth on their side. All they have is theories. And these are not just theories, these are agendas. So I always say it's not that these men are wicked. A lot of people say, oh, all you guys are all in on it. No, very few people are in on this because after generation and generation and generation, they would just regurgitate what they were taught. Their
Yes.
parents taught them, their professors, their teachers. It's not like there's this huge conspiracy where people are waking up every morning and going, let's go out and deceive the world. They're blinded. It says that he has blinded the whole world, right? So again, they're just puppets for his use of what he wants to accomplish. But so I always say there's hope for anyone, even Neil deGrasse Tyson. You know what I mean? And
Yes.
that's what we're called to do is to go out and bring the light to a dark world. And truly, we are completely dark if we're in an endless vacuum of nothing.
Right. Yeah. I had some guy who was a globalist. He was commenting on some of the things that I had put out because Rob and I have been doing a whole
Yes.
series on Genesis and everything.
Hmm.
But He was talking about the Tesla Roadster that's in orbit around the Earth. I mean, it's just
I'm glad that he can, in this awakening, he can actually make us smile and give us some humor.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
so funny.
It is
While we don't
so
want to look
funny.
down on people and laugh at people, we can laugh at the concepts and the ideas,
Right,
right? And I
right.
think that's important because in this whole thing, while it can get us down, we got to remain kind of positive and we got to remain lighthearted because again, when you
Hmm.
start getting awoken to this, you're like, really? Like that is so
Right,
ridiculous, right? Everything. I mean, whether it's the moon landing, whether it doesn't matter when you start looking at anything, just the speeds, just the globe Earth, it becomes ridiculous. Like really, it is
right.
so completely ridiculous. But again, there's verse after verse showing the fact that they would start believing in fairy tales, basically fables,
Yes, right.
and we see the warning of science falsely so called.
Yes, yes, and that is one of the things when you consider the speeds of what they say as far as the Earth being in orbit around the sun moving in orbit around the Milky Way, and then the Milky Way moving in a million point 2 million miles an hour around some great galactic center. It's all so laughable, so ludicrous, and yet we allowed ourselves to buy into and to believe all that. Even the fact that if you consider if the sun were 93 million miles away, and how you would ever be able to see that is just laughable. I mean,
It's
it's
humbling. It's humbling though, and we have to
yeah,
always remember that those end. Because think about this way:
right,
10 years ago, you believed that.
exactly,
You believed it
yes,
with your whole might.
yes,
You didn't
right,
question it. You probably
not
go,
at all,
you
right,
probably looked up and you're like, wow. Like all I'm saying is
exactly,
we all were there. We all were
right,
there, right? We have to remember that because again, sometimes it can get frustrating when we're looking at the world and these people and global people and
mhm,
stuff. It's just like, wait a minute, but we were there. So we got
right,
to be humbled a little bit the fact that we were, for whatever reason, spiritually awoken or on our journey in that way or called to it. And the fact is, we can't start looking down on people because it's like we all were there and we were
right,
there for
right,
years and years and years. And we went to the space movies and we talked about traveling the universe and we were going to go on this planet. And one day we were going
right,
to be on Mars and maybe we'll go back to the moon. We
hmm,
were there. And we have to
right,
remember that because I
yeah,
think, I see a lot of people in flat earth sometimes just really get elevated, start looking
yes.
down at everyone like you bunch of idiots. How can you believe in the
Right,
globe? Well, wait a minute.
right.
You believed in it your whole life.
Exactly, and
You
not
know,
even that long ago, right?
Oh, not even that long ago. That's the
Yeah,
scary thing, right? And again,
yeah,
please, please do not make this as a believer. Do not make flat earth salvational in the sense that, this is a prerequisite, in order to have salvation or to be
right,
entered in the kingdom. Because I'll tell
right.
you one thing, you might have been in a lot of trouble even just a few years ago.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
exactly.
that would make can you imagine, Zen, thinking the fact of all the time that you've been walking with the Messiah, all the books you've written, and the fact is you never were even there. You didn't have any
Right,
truth because you believed in
right.
the globe or the Big Bang.
Yeah,
Come
yeah.
on,
Hmm. Right. Yeah, Rob and I were just talking about that last night about how, a lot of our books were based on that we have the heliocentric mindset, and
Sure.
how, it just shows the evolution, shows the growth, and how,
Your books were still
um,
powerful and they led many people back to
yeah,
him. Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, exactly. And it shows, how we've uh, learned, and now we know different and better. And
Sure.
so, yeah, but yeah, exactly. And I think the whole thing of having humor and not taking it so serious to where you start to condemn and judge
Sure.
and criticize others, that is an important thing that we
The
have
name
to be
calling,
able
the
to
name
laugh
calling,
at
we got to
ourselves.
be careful on that. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I
Because I
agree.
mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I know that we
It
get it a
turns
lot.
people off. Yeah.
It does. Well, it does. And then we
Mhm.
sink to their level, really.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, fully. And so, yeah, I think it's a wise thing to do to still be able to hold on to your humor and to be able to share that. If people are going, if they want to believe in the Tesla Roadster in orbit around the Earth, along with the 20,000 satellites that are supposedly up there and not running into each other,
hmm
then that's fine.
But
Let's,
to answer your question about the youth, though, Zen, I am seeing a tremendous awakening happening with the youth because they're not
yeah,
buying it because they've never seen
right,
anything in their lifetime. They've never seen any
right,
achievements in space. They've never seen nothing. So now they're just kind of like, I'm not really convinced. I'm not, I'm
right, right.
skeptical because really I have nothing to hold on to. At least with the baby boomers and stuff, they had the moon landing,
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
it was hard. It was harder to jolt them. But now with the new generations, Generation X, Generation Y, you're looking at it and you're kind of like, wait a minute, right? And when you're getting into even the, Z Gen and stuff, even the newer generations, really, they have nothing but skeptical when it comes
Uh-huh.
to anything that NASA is doing. So really, they can be reached very easily because all you have
Yeah.
to do is just say, go do your own research. And once they do it, they're going to like, yeah, I'm not convinced. There's holes
Right.
everywhere. There's holes
Yeah,
everywhere. And
exactly.
besides, when are they going back? They're now talking, we're going to go back to the moon in 2024. Well, wait a minute. You went there no problem in the 1960s and 70s.
Hmm.
And yet you're going to say, well, we're going to go there in 2024. And then what's going to happen is they're going to postpone that. Oh, 2030, 2035. And it's
Hmm.
funny how they're not going to the moon. Their big ambition is going to Mars. I mean,
Right.
what a joke that is. I mean, why don't you go
Hmm.
up there? I always sit there and say, wait a minute, what about the first woman to walk on the moon? I think
Yeah.
NASA is pretty sexist. You should, all those feminists should storm NASA and
Right.
demand. So whatever it takes to basically get people, super charged up, awoken to the fact of like, yeah, wait a minute, why isn't there a woman walking on the moon, right?
Hmm.
Playing golf up there, shooting golf balls and talking to the White
Yeah.
House and talking to the
Driving
White
a
House on their
rover.
cell
Right.
phone. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly. Yeah, call them out.
calling the
Oh,
White
that is so
House.
crazy. Yeah.
It is. It is.
Talking to the
Especially
astronauts live. Oh my
Oh
God, so
yeah, with like
laughable.
hardly with no delay and stuff. And it's like 1960s and 70s. So, these are
Yeah.
the points, and that's why I did with, Scientism Exposed with my documentaries, is I wanted to come up with something that doesn't even mention flat Earth. But it
Uh-huh.
gives them so many things where they're questioning and they're like, wait a minute, if that's true, what's going on? And really that has been so incredible, the amount of response I've got from Scientism Exposed. I think on the IMDb, it still holds about an 8 out of 10 with over 350 reviews.
Oh,
I
that's
mean, it's
awesome.
phenomenal. And again, the people are just like, wow, you give me a lot to think about. And now I've started venturing out. And it doesn't even mention flat Earth because when that came to me, it was almost like, that was really a calling. It was like put a tool together that number one, could be used for believers to like get into, their loved ones' hands, right? It wouldn't scare them off. It wouldn't be like flat Earth and they go run for the hills, right? They could say, hey, what's the scientism thing, right?
Right.
What's scientism? What's the difference between science and scientism? Because when people realize that they're holding on to something they believe was truly science, and they realize it was never science after all, it was more of an agenda, a belief system, deception, really.
Hmm.
And you start getting quoting astronauts and scientists, and they're like with their own words. Then they're like, wait a minute, what is going on? These guys are even saying this. This is not a documentary saying that people said something. It's their own words.
Right.
And it's like,
Right.
wow, there's some major, major problems here. So I think we're going to see more and more people seriously questioning things, you know, opening up to the real possibility that they've been lied to. But I mean, the idea that everything they knew to be true was a lie is so hard for people to manage in their brain. I mean, for me, Zen, I was open to anything. I would research lizard men run the world. Okay. I was not even open to flat Earth. Before I came across that video, I saw it a couple times and I was like, no way. I mean, people completely are stupid if they would even think that. So what
Right.
I'm saying is, me being open to anything, I still wouldn't give it the time of day. What does
Yes.
that mean for just somebody normal that really is not completely conspiratorial or
Right.
wanting to know or get to the bottom of things? And they come along and someone says, by the way, we're not on a spinning globe. The earth is flat. You've been lied to. And they're like, what? Like, it is such a mind trip, right? So it will take a lot of people a lot of time. And that's where relationships are very important. Remember that we're not on the sprint. You don't have to convince them today, next
Yeah.
week. Look at it
Right.
like it's a journey. Walk with them, ask the
Hmm.
questions. Don't be, I mean, nobody likes it when someone's kind of force feeding someone something or
Right.
telling them, need this, you need this, you need this.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
take it slow, man, because it's not like the world's going to end tomorrow. And
Right.
again, that's the one thing that I think a lot of people have this mentality with when it comes to flat Earth. It's like, no, 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 we need all these numbers. We need all these numbers. Well, I think a lot of people, if you are going with that idea that in the next 5 years it's going to explode and the whole world's going to wake up to it, I think you should start preparing yourself the fact that it won't. And if you have healthy expectations, you're not going to be dismayed. You're not going to be, saddened by the fact that really it's going to grow. There's going to be peaks. There's going to be valleys. And we're going to continually go upwards. But I don't think there's going to be this massive, expansion where, 80% of the world wake up to this. If you read the Bible, it definitely doesn't say that. The
Yeah. In
narrow
fact,
path and that
yeah.
type of thing, right? But I just
Right.
say
For
it's
the
not to be
elect. Yeah.
yeah, it's not to be discouraging. It's just to sit there and say, look,
Right.
every person is important. So even if one person comes to this truth and it leads them back to the Messiah, it leads them back to Jesus, I'm telling you right now, all of that was worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And the scriptures talk about how when one comes to salvation, how the angels are, throwing a party in
Yeah,
heaven. They're like
rejoicing. Yeah,
celebrating. Yeah,
yeah.
for
I remember
sure.
when I got saved. I remember I was around some believers, and they're like, "You don't understand. Like there was literally like a party in heaven." I was like, "What? Really?" And they're like, "Yeah." Like they showed me in the verse, and I was like, "Wow,
Hmm.
wow." He rejoices when one comes back.
Yes,
Amazing,
yes.
amazing.
Because it's huge, for one to make it back to the kingdom is wow. Yeah, absolutely.
You can't put a
And
price on it.
no, not at all. And so, yeah, most certainly, I think all of that is important. And I think I guess one of the interesting and most important parts of what we're talking about this evening is to help people to understand how to approach others when they are embracing flat Earth and wanting to share it and teach it, especially with, family members.
Hmm.
Because a lot of times, I know I did this in my own family when I first woke up to all the conspiratorial stuff, the
Hmm.
9/11 and
Hmm.
everything. I wanted to just force it down
Sure.
everybody's throat and help them to understand it. And it was so important, so critical to me. I wanted it to be important and critical to everybody else. But
Sure.
in doing that, I drove a lot of my family members
Yeah.
away.
Yeah. It's not worth it. Yeah, I tell people
Yeah,
all the
it's
time,
totally
Zen, I'm
not.
like, yeah, you might be passionate, that's awesome and all. Honestly, do not jeopardize your family.
Right.
I hear these
Yeah.
stories all the time. I'm like, no, that's not cool. If you're like, I
Right.
don't care,
Right.
it's the truth, and I don't care if
Yeah.
my wife divorces me or I don't care if my parents never talk to me. It's like, don't allow that to happen. Family
Yeah.
is
It's
truly
not worth
important.
it. It
Family is
is.
very important.
Absolutely. I
But
agree.
again, I mean, again, that's the whole thing. That comes down to, wise counsel, or if we can impart something, if you're new to
Right.
this and stuff and you're going through that, honestly, don't do it. Don't do it. It
Right.
will be something you'll look back on regret. It is important. And
Mm,
again, sometimes I say, pray about it and you'll be led to the right people at the right time. And quite honestly,
yeah.
sometimes family is not the right type of people to reach family.
Exactly.
Oh,
Right.
trust me, it was with my father. My father just passed away recently, and I knew throughout the years trying to, reach him with the gospel, I got to
Yeah.
a point where I was like, I know that's not going to be through me, and I'm okay with it. I'm
Yeah.
okay with it because
Right.
it didn't come through me, and it did come in the end, which was
Right on. That's
incredible.
awesome.
It was
That's yeah.
amazing. It was amazing, and I mean,
Yeah.
just watching how it all came together, like really, literally 2 days before he actually passed away. But again, that was like this entire journey. But I got to the point going, you know what? We're just going to butt heads.
Yes.
It's not gonna be receptive because it's like he's
Right.
my son. I mean, my son's telling me what to, it's like there's a
Yes.
budding up there, and
Right.
again, family
Mhm.
dynamics can be kind of messy. So sometimes
Yes.
it's just like, you know what, keep them in prayer. If you love
Right.
them, maybe someone will come in their life. Maybe you can, show them a something, but sometimes you got to be careful when it comes to
Right.
family because family
Right.
truly is important. Don't lose family members over this. I strongly caution anyone, honestly, get an outlet, go to a meetup. If you need to have that vent, you need to talk about it. And I know, trust me, I know what it's like when I got came to this, I needed to tell everyone. It's the same thing,
Yes.
when I got saved, I had to tell the whole world. But sometimes you can have passion, but you have to have that maturity where you kind of know the right time and place. And if you need that outlet, get it online, go to a meetup, go to a conference, get it out, and then strategically, kind of approach, family members and loved ones. But
Mhm.
sometimes we think that, well, I love them, they're my family. You know what? It's okay. They're going to be okay. Sometimes focus on the people that really truly want to hear this because you'll run into someone,
Exactly.
they'll say you're an idiot. The next person you tell, they're like, tell me more. I want to hear it.
Exactly.
Really? Wow.
Right.
And be led. Like allow the spirit to lead. Don't go with your own will. Seek his will.
Hmm. Absolutely. Because again, if they're not going to be receptive anyways, I mean, really, what's the point? Because they're not going to hear you and what you're saying. And with family, again, to cause that division, it's simply not worth it. At least that's been my experience. And so now I learn to come to these kind of conversations and to only discuss this with, again, you don't want to throw pearls before swine, and if they're just going to trample it in the mud anyways,
Sure. Sure.
what's the point? So,
That's
all
the
right, well,
thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
we'll be right back, everyone, for final segment. All right, welcome back, everybody, for final segment. Oh, wow, the show just really flew by. And again, we'll be gathering next week for the Flat Earth International Conference. Uh, but wanted to ask you, Robbie, have you been working on? Well, I'm sure you've been working on a lot of things, but anything specific with documentaries or
Oh
books
no.
or?
No, nothing at all. Just preparing for Dallas. Like I said, tons of work. Probably like
Yeah.
3 times the amount that went into Denver has gone into Dallas. So yeah, I just been fully concentrating, and then obviously with my father passing again, there was a lot
Yeah.
of time there that threw it off, and I had to tend to matters, especially after he passed with my mother and just dealing with
Uh-huh.
everything. And so again, I really haven't. Definitely excited for 2020, and there's definitely big changes coming in my life that I definitely will be announcing, in the future. But it definitely is exciting what's happening, definitely on this journey.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I asked the listening audience to pray for you and your family, your mother, and with all of what you've gone through. I know that it's never easy losing a parent and going through that whole circumstance and
Hmm.
situation. I've lost both my parents, and so I
Mm.
I understand the challenges, and I pray for
Yeah,
my parents
I was with
daily.
my father. I was with my father, like in the hospital. I was basically he was the last. I was the last person for him to see, and I mean, the last word that came out of his mouth was my name, and I was there seeing his last five final
Oh
breaths,
wow,
which was
awesome.
incredibly traumatic, but also very beautiful.
Yeah,
Like I said, I
yeah.
mean, overall, it's hard, and it was definitely traumatizing for me.
Hmm.
But overall, I would say that 95% of it is very joyous.
Uh-huh.
I was
Yeah,
elated. A lot of
yeah.
things were able to get concluded. I have
That's
no
great.
regrets. And so
Yeah.
I look at it, and there were things that, I was close to my father, but we became even closer in the final, weeks of his life. And
Awesome.
it was just amazing the things we were able to talk about before he passed. And we did think that he probably had, maybe 8 or 10 months or maybe a year. We were all surprised how quickly it happened. And we
Wow.
still really don't fully know. It's still a bit of a mystery what happened, which is
Uh-huh.
interesting. But all that to say that I'm happy that I was blessed enough not only to see my father saved and that I know that I will see him again, but also
Yes.
the fact that he was able to restore pretty much everything in my life, and I can walk with no regrets. We said
That's
everything we
awesome.
needed to say to one another. My father was able to see how much I truly loved him through my actions. One thing that
Hmm.
my father would never really see in his life was he knew that his son loved him, but he really didn't see it in my actions. And I was able in the last in the last weeks of his life really show him how much I loved him and what I was willing to do,
Awesome.
to be there. In the fact, even in the hospital, we didn't leave him alone at all. We took shifts around the clock, and we were there for
Yeah.
hours on end, for days, just to make sure that he wasn't alone. So,
That's
um,
fantastic.
overall, like I said, it's pretty miraculous. I think I wrote something, and I'll probably be posting it soon. But I've been blown away at how God can orchestrate such a masterpiece in death
Hmm.
of my father.
Right.
And I mean, it's
Yeah.
weird to say, but it was an incredible masterpiece what I saw take place. And now I connect all the dots and I see different things. And I'm like, wow, it was an epic ending to my father's life. I don't know if that comes
Uh-huh.
off weird or whatever, but
No, no.
it makes me smile because I'm just like, wow, I truly was blessed, not just to have
Mhm.
answered prayers, but to see stuff beyond what I knew, I didn't deserve it. And he went over and beyond for my father in the end.
Yeah, I've been reading and studying the extra biblical manuscripts for a very long time. And what people don't realize is that when the patriarchs would come to the close of their lives, they would call forth all of their children to
Hmm.
gather around them, and then they would impart to them the lessons of
Hmm.
their lives, and also not only share blessing, but they would share the prophecy that they had seen and that they knew of what would happen to, their children and their generations going
Hmm.
forward, and they would
Hmm.
share warnings with them. And I think that this is something that is really beautiful in the narratives of the scriptures, because like with the testament of Adam, even when Abraham called forth, Esau and Jacob to gather, and Esau went out to gather the meal, and Jacob stole his blessing, but actually Esau had sold it to him previously. But anyways, that was his deathbed. He was on his deathbed and died that night, and that was a Passover, and so all these different things, the testaments of the different patriarchs and the prophets, it was their final story
Hmm.
that was written down and passed down and shared
Hmm.
even to the latter generations. And so that I think the final gathering and what you were able to share with your dad is a beautiful thing, because that's the way even that the ancient ancestors
Yeah, and that's what it
did
was
it.
accomplished. I mean, he
Yeah.
was able to talk to everyone one last time. I mean, every
Hmm.
single family member, everything, just the way it was all coordinated. Not to mention that my parents were able to celebrate not one but two 50-year wedding anniversaries.
Awesome.
One where they grew up with all of their friends, and
Wow,
then
that's
we were able
amazing.
to host it at our house 3 weeks later. And 2 weeks later he would pass away. But
Hmm.
even that time, walking around, we didn't even think, we thought he had a lot more time because he's
Right.
walking around, and 2 weeks later he's gone. But I'm just saying all the things that he was able to accomplish, the fact that we were able to surprise him with his best friend and best man,
Yeah.
that was at the tail end. But everything, talking with him, he said to me, he said, it's okay. I've had a good life. It's fine. I'm ready, and he had such
Hmm.
a peace. He had such a peace about him, so
That's awesome.
it was really incredible. Yeah, obviously you'll be missed. I love my dad,
Right.
but
Yeah.
it was incredible. And I was in awe. I was just glorifying him and just saying, wow, like it's incredible what you were able to do. Not just to answer my prayer, because I'll tell you, when we were talking about reaching your family, oh boy, I was so scared, Zen, the fact that
Mhm.
he'd be lost for eternity. I was I
Yeah.
was I was
Yeah.
really terrified, and that was my
Right.
prayer for over 20 years, and
Oh
off
man,
and
that's
on we'd
so
have those
awesome.
talks, and I knew that, it would happen, not through
Right.
me, but through someone else.
Yeah.
But if we got into a conversation, I would bring stuff up. I'm always
Yeah.
urging my dad, but it never ever worked. But I was so terrified about him,
Yeah.
dying with no hope, and just because I knew, and seeing it at the end and just how that was orchestrated, that was absolutely incredible. I had never seen my dad look like that or say the things he said the day he was in the hospital, and I was there to witness it because there was my pastor and his wife were there, and that's a whole interesting story too because he hardly even knew my pastor. He was
Hmm.
drawing him through my pastor. He hardly knows this guy. And then, 3 weeks before he dies, he's sitting there. He's like, I want Pastor Jackson to officiate my funeral. And that was like, trust me, that was just blew me away. I'm like, what, really? Like, and so again, it was interesting to see how it was all orchestrated in the end. How he
Hmm.
drew him in, how all the things took place. And
Awesome.
I honestly want to write a book on it at some point because there's not just the death part of it, there's really so much in the story, and it's not just like my story, but really the story needs to be told about even the events that took place
Yeah.
afterwards, but all the stuff leading up to it and how it was like I was given almost not like a revelation, but I was able to see all the puzzle pieces coming together. And he said, don't you
Uh-huh.
know, I've orchestrated the whole thing.
Right.
I have been doing this all behind the scenes. And then not only that, showing me what's in store for even the Davidsons and what will be accomplished in my sons. And
Yeah.
when he said sons, Zen, I was like, what? Like I was done having children, right? And that's a whole
Uh-huh.
other program for another time. But anyways, just closing, things happened afterwards where I was literally not just shaken to the core, but I was humbled and I was broken down. And he said, lay that all at my feet. I'm now going to give you my will and you will follow it, sort of thing. So even,
Uh-huh.
myself and talking to my wife, I'm just like, I'm just done having children. Now I'm at the point, I'm like, we're going to have as many as the Lord wills. I was just like, whatever the
Right on.
Father wants, we're going to have. And again, so radical changes took place through this whole experience. So I am more than grateful. I'll miss him, but I'll see him again.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you do decide to do a book and pull together how, the grander scheme of the Father's will bringing you together, and the circumstances of the death and everything, because it is a transition, and that's the wonderful, incredible thing about our Savior Messiah, our King and Lord, is that salvation is through him, and we know that we're going to have a reunion.
Yeah.
And that's, what an, why would you not want to have
Just to have that
part
peace,
in that?
honestly, just to
Yeah.
have that peace, then honestly, it was just
Yeah.
so incredible. I felt so blessed be
Hmm.
able just to sit there while my dad is passing away, his final breaths, and I am like, go, be with him.
Yeah.
I knew it. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't even like I
Yeah.
wished it for him. I hope he
Right.
goes there. I knew
Yes.
with every
Mhm.
ounce of my being. And honestly, I'm a skeptical guy. Okay. I'm a
Yeah.
conspiracy theorist. Okay. I'm
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
truther. Okay. So I'm
Yeah.
always trying to like, I got to make sure, I got to make sure. But what I
Right.
witnessed and what I saw, I've never seen my father
Yeah.
say the
Awesome.
words and the way he looked. And it was incredible. So I'm just like,
Praise
wow,
God.
thank you so much for giving me that peace going forward that I can have that and know that going forward.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that there's going to be this reunion at the end of all this. What a beautiful thing. And
Amazing.
I
Yeah.
share that, with my parents too. And so I think another thing that is important for people to take away from what we're discussing and sharing this evening, is that, you know, we're not promised any more tomorrows. This day could be your last. Share your love with your loved ones.
Yes.
Tell your parents, your children, your grandparents, anybody that you have love for, your friends, your acquaintances.
Yep.
Share it with your animals. Share your love. Let them know how you feel, because you may not get that chance
It's
again.
true. It's true.
And so, yeah, and we have to recognize that, that we're mortal, and that and I think that if we were to not overlook the blessings of every moment, and we were to live like every day is our last, and kind of treat our loved ones with that kind of sanctity and that kind of sacredness, and respect them and honor them in the way that really you would if you knew you were going to die and you only had a certain time. Just how beautiful, because every every dinner, every conversation, every hug, every kiss, every thought, every deed is meaningful.
Yeah.
And what a beautiful thing that is, to be able to share with others in that way.
Yeah, no, absolutely, 100% echo that statement for sure. Just treasure the people that love you, and don't take them for granted, and just tell them, because yeah, you just don't know. It's
Right.
easier, you hear these things like, oh, you don't know if a person has tomorrow and stuff, but truly, I mean, it literally, once it's gone, it's gone, and it's
Yeah.
like, just don't live with regrets, and just try your
Right.
best to, do it. That's what I'm saying when it comes to this topic, if, circling back to flat Earth, don't
Yeah.
allow flat Earth to be a divider. Do not allow that
Exactly.
when it comes to family, because I'll tell you one thing: when you're in your hospital bed and you're sitting there, flat Earth, you're not going to care about flat Earth. That's one thing with my
Right.
dad. Then one thing
Right.
with my dad, he got to a point where my dad was incredibly intelligent. He was a strong businessman. He worked in the government, all sorts of things. But the one thing was that he got to a point in life where nothing interested him. He didn't want to read. He didn't want to watch TV. He didn't want to do puzzles. He didn't care about business. He got to a point where, and that's the beautiful thing, he got to a state where all he could do was think. So that when all of a
Uh,
sudden things were being told to him, he had, like, that's all he had were days to
yeah.
think these things through. But my
Right.
point on that is, really, when you stop and think about it, when you get to that point, family, you're going to want that family around you. That's
Yes.
all he cared about at that time. He didn't care about anything else. He wanted his family. And again, family is truly, truly important. There's a reason why, it was instituted. I mean, marriage was instituted even before the church, if you look at the
Right.
Bible, right? Family,
Right. Yeah.
incredibly important.
Absolutely.
It's the nucleus of any society. That's why
Yes.
you see the enemy trying to destroy family, change it,
Exactly.
add things where it can be defined any which way. It could be four
Right.
women and one guy, or it could be two women, or
Right.
it could be two
Right.
men. All I'm saying, family is incredibly important. The way God instituted it, the way it is, with a father and a mother. These type of things are fundamental to the fabric of all society. But there's a reason why family is so incredibly important. And that's what I'm saying is, when it comes to this flat Earth topic, or any topic for that matter, don't allow it to be a dividing factor. When it comes to
Right.
your family, it's important and it's great and it's wonderful. Don't worry, you're going to be led to many people. They're going to be fascinated and they're going to want to know more and more. But if someone is
Yes.
resisting it, laughing at you, don't allow it to bother you. Just keep moving forward as a
Mhm.
calling, because there's many people that need to hear the truth, and they're hearing it every day. And honestly, the truth does set people free.
Absolutely. And I know that there's going to be people that are going to listen, and that are listening even right now, and that will hear the archives, and that you have right now allowed something to come between you and whatever loved one, whether it's parents or family or children, that something you may not even remember what it is, but it's been dividing you from your loved ones for a very long time. And whether they're angry or you're angry, I mean, we have to get over those things, because really they're
Forgiveness, man.
meaningless.
Forgiveness. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Hate.
Forgiveness is
Yeah. Hate doesn't do anything.
huge.
Honestly, it's just going to
Right.
keep you a slave and in bondage. I mean, there's
Exactly.
so much freedom in forgiveness. It's hard. Don't get me wrong. But honestly, pray for that strength, or get to the point, because if you can forgive, you truly are set free.
Yes. And forgiveness is such a huge factor, along with repentance,
Yes. Yes.
Um, it's such a huge deal in walking in faith and walking in the example of Christ. And that, to even love your enemies. I mean,
Yes.
wow, what a concept,
Yep. Yep. Hard
And
to do, but it's something that we must do, especially if you're called by him
yeah,
and you're going to be a
yeah,
follower of Jesus. Absolutely. You have to
right,
do it. It's not, I don't, if I want to or not. It's, you
right,
need to get to a point where you want to do that, and if you struggle with it, then pray about it. But yeah, we're called to do it. It's a command.
Yes.
It's a
Yes.
command. Yeah.
And these are certainly difficult tenets to
Sure.
implement and to fully embrace in one's life. But again, with regard to family and even your enemies and dealing with other Christians, that if we can just honor and respect each other and come to terms and even agree to disagree on certain things,
Hmm.
again, with regard to family, and it's about love. God loved us and even died for us in order to redeem us and to
While we were
restore us.
enemies, while we were
Yes,
enemies.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so, I think important that we embrace that in our lives and that we learn, as you said, to forgive each other and to not, because this is bigger than even flat earth,
Sure.
that
Yeah.
forgiving, repenting, and honoring family and honoring the relationships that we have. And again, that we may not have any more tomorrows. Just like you said
Yeah.
with your father, that he passed faster than y'all thought or
Incredibly
expected.
faster than we thought. And
Yeah.
again, my
So,
wife and I were taking the most grim situation. We were realistic about it and going, while everyone else is like, oh, he's got 2 or 3 years, we were like, no, like this is definitely like, stage 4 kind of thing. You know what I mean?
hmm
And we were having that mindset, but I'll tell you, it took all of us by surprise how fast it came. But we also look at it like that itself, as interesting as it is, it was a blessing that it was that fast.
yeah. Yes, and my parents passed unexpectedly in
Mm,
the same kind of manner, and so, but I was grateful that we had close bonding and close relationship to
that's
where
great.
we were able to, share and discuss
Hmm.
in a manner that we knew and loved each other and cared for one another, and so I just wish that for everybody else, because again, family's a very important thing, and it's something that you shouldn't let anything, whatever argument, whatever topic, whatever issue, divide you
Well,
from
friends
each
are
other.
fleeting. I always sit there and say,
Yeah.
and it's not that
Mhm.
I don't value friends, but let's just be
Right.
realistic, right? They're
Right.
there for a
Yeah.
time and a season. It's very
Mhm.
rare that you're going to have a friend from start to the finish of your life. It's rare. It
Right.
happens. I'm not saying it doesn't, but let's just be realistic, right? Friends come and go.
Right.
Family's there, it's blood, and again, yes,
Yes.
sometimes it could be rough and it could be hard, but just remember exactly, at the end of your life, trust me on this, when you're kind of laying there, if you do get, blessed enough to be able to actually have it that way, because some people, just want to go, but sometimes I think being able to kind of get closure and see everyone and say what you need to say, sometimes I think you're more at peace. But for me, it's like you're going to want family there. You will. I mean, I don't think you're going to
Mhm.
look back and say, "Oh, my best friend in elementary school. I'd love for them to be here." You won't care. You really
Right.
would,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know. But anyways, it's one of those things. But anyways, the whole show kind of got onto a like this real serious vibe, whereas we're talking about
Yeah.
death and we're talking about making things right and just do the right thing.
Right.
But
Right.
it's good. It's good to mention that. But anyways, we're going to go forward. And like I
Yeah.
said, when it comes to, kingdom talk, that's, I guess, what we're trying to actually say here is
Right.
really do anything that values, and promotes the kingdom, because really that is
Yes.
what it's all about, right? I wouldn't be doing anything, Zen, anything that I do if it wasn't for the gospel first and
Right.
foremost. That's truly 100%. If it doesn't have that element into it, then really my passion is not there. I can have hobbies and stuff, but I wouldn't, spend all this time and effort and be laughed at by the world and ridiculed.
Yes.
But you know what? I look at it as a privilege. If you want to
Right.
call me a fool for him and you want to laugh at me, I will boldly stand on his word. I will
Yeah.
boldly stand on what he's called me to do because,
Yes.
I know exactly the freedom that's found in him.
Yes. And I think that's a beautiful thing, is that so many individuals are now making a decision to do that exact thing. And
Hmm.
that really each one of us, you were talking about how even one, making the change and doing
Hmm.
the work,
Hmm.
that how important and how critical that is. And so I encourage everybody out there to prioritize the kingdom and to dedicate your life in whatever manner you can to serving, and to stand for truth. And, because none of us, I didn't expect to ever be involved in the manner that I am,
Hmm.
writing all the books that I wrote and doing all the radio broadcasts and all of that. We chose at some point to begin. And in beginning, the Most High made a way. And so I think anybody could could do the same thing. And so, if you feel caught up in doing something that you may not want to, and you want to change your focus, then do it. And I think that the Most High will lead you, and He will provide a way and make
Amen. Yeah,
open
absolutely.
doors and windows for you. So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, yeah. Well, hey, brother, we've got just about 4 minutes remaining, and so I want to give you one more chance to mention all of your work, your endeavor, where people can go to support you, and also to find out about and perhaps join us last minute for the Flat Earth
Yeah.
Convention.
Yeah, if you're in the area, you can be there, Dallas, Texas, November 14th and 15th, actually the 13th, 14th, and 15th. There'll be all sorts of amazing activities going on at the Flat Earth International Conference. You can go to flatearthconference.com, find all the information there. If you can't make it, get the 2-day all access live stream. It's $40 for both days. That includes Owen Benjamin, the comedy show, the Flat Earth Game Show, the Flat Earth Video Awards, music, so much more. It's going to be amazing. Sign up for the live stream and don't miss it. And if you're interested in my work, celebratetruth.org, you'll find my documentaries, my book. And if you're interested in watching them and you don't want to buy a DVD, you can go to YouTube. Celebrate Truth is my channel. I run a 24/7 video that runs there as well with the greatest flat earth Christian videos that run in there. We've got Zen Garcia. We've got so many others in there as well. It's just absolutely amazing. But you can watch the documentary for free on YouTube as well. Just type it in and you should be able to find all my information that way. And really appreciate your support. I have a Patreon. If you want to support what you love, feel free to do that. Or you can do paypal.me/celebrate truth.
Most excellent, brother. And I know that you're doing incredible work, and that you deserve a long rest afterwards. And then I'm
Yeah.
sure that you'll get back on doing some other projects. But
Yep.
after you do take a long time to kind of chill out and relax and be with family and all, do you have another video or another documentary or anything specific that you
I
are?
got something coming up after the conference once I take a couple months off that I think is going to surprise a lot of people. I'll talk to you more
Right
about
on.
it then, but trust me, you're going to want to have me on the show because it
Yeah,
will be a show to remember for sure. But I have something very big coming after
cool.
FEIC 2019.
Very cool, brother. And I knew, the creative juices, you can't hold you back, and that I'm sure you were tossing something around, and so,
Hmm.
um, but
You're
it's
just
gonna
trying to
be
get it out of
awesome.
me. You're just trying to get it out of me. You're
Yeah,
like, hey, can you
exactly.
just give
Yeah.
us hints? Can you tell us? I'm like,
Right. Yeah, a
oh,
little
trust me.
hint.
When you hear the story, you're going to be like wanting me on right away as soon as
Nice.
possible. So I'll
Well, yeah.
let you know a little bit about it, but it's pretty extraordinary, and it does involve kind of what we were talking about before. But it gets to a point, and I have no problem telling the story. I do want to write a book about it, and I think you're going to see some pretty huge changes coming to Celebrate Truth. I'm not saying I won't be touching on flat Earth. I'll be talking about that, but I'm going to be talking about something so much bigger. And I'm moving to the next chapter, put it that way.
Awesome. That's
Yeah.
great, brother. Well, hey, man, we greatly appreciate all that you do for the community and for the kingdom. And, God bless you and all your efforts, brother. We'll see you in
Blessings
a
to you as
week's time.
well. Yeah, I
Yeah.
can't wait. Can't wait to see you again. It's going to be amazing. What time are you getting in?
We're leaving at 11 o'clock on the 13th, so we should be there probably like 1. It's not even that long of
Wow.
a
Yeah, you're
flight.
real
So,
close. Oh, nice. It's
yeah.
gonna be amazing. Well, like I said, I'll be around. You'll definitely see me looking for the guy that's running around like a chicken
Yeah.
with his head cut off or something. But
Right.
no, I'll be okay. But it'll be great to see you, brother. Looking forward to it. We'll get you all set up with the Sacred Word Publishing table and all that stuff, good stuff. But yeah, we're gonna have a great time. I think you're gonna really be excited with everything that you see this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure. And, all of your hard work will come to fruition, and what a blessing that will be for everybody. We
Flat Earth,
appreciate you,
yeah,
man.
flatearthconference.com. And it's
Yeah.
finding the creator through creation. That's the slogan for this year. And I'll tell you, many people are going to find him through the creation, and
Yeah,
especially at
absolutely.
Dallas this year.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I look forward to it, and God bless everybody. Be safe in your travels. We'll see you in Dallas in just about a week's time.
Blessings all.
Be blessed all. Good night.